Kevin Costner reveals his funeral guest list at the age of 70. In the 40 years since he first appeared on screen in Hollywood, Kevin Costner has become an icon, from Yellowstone's aged seriousness to the untamed allure of the untouchables. At 70 years old, the man who embodied American masculinity for many is supposedly contemplating his legacy and the people he does and does not want in his life. While the closing titles roll, standing at his gravestone, according to a long-standing associate who has collaborated with Costner on several projects, Kevin is now considering his legacy. He's not sad about it, he's simply realistic. Although he has been rather forthright about some individuals he would like not to have their paying phony homage, his desire is for his memorial to portray the genuine ties he formed rather than Hollywood insincerity. Those close to actor Kevin Costner say that he has discreetly considered a small group of celebrities whose attendance at his burial would constitute a last betrayal. People with whom he had irreparably damaged relationships as a result of public squabbles, private betrayals, or intense professional conflicts. Someone who worked with Kevin on the project in the past said that he believes in forgiving. But genuineness is something he also values. It truly saddens him that some individuals would come up at his funeral just to get attention, or to act if a relationship didn't exist. Kevin Costner allegedly does not want 6 people present at his funeral because, as he has told Pauls, if they didn't respect me in life, they don't belong at my funeral. Tonight we will uncover their identities. A candid look at the resentment, animosity, and strained relationships that have marred an otherwise successful Hollywood career. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. It was incredibly kind of you. A big thank you to one, Madonna, the musical sensation who made fun of him in front of the world. When the 90s were rolling around, Kevin Costner was a household name. His recent directorial victory, Dances with Wolves, and his appearances in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and The Bodyguard are all box office successes. Truth or Dare chronicles Madonna's revolutionary Blonde Ambition tour, which she also performed when at the height of her cultural prominence. What was to have been a short, cordial exchange between two entertainment heavyweights turned into one of the most iconic instances of public shaming in the annals of stardom, a sham that allegedly continues to trouble Costner even after all these years. According to an ex-assistant who worked with Costner during this time, rumors have it that she once insulted him on television for calling her concert neat. He accompanied her backstage after a performance to offer words of encouragement and praise. She patiently waited for him to exit before turning to the camera and gagged, expressing her disapproval of his comment as both simplistic and humorous. An infamous pop culture incident, this moment was caught on Truth or Dare and watched by millions. It painted Costner as uncool and square, while promoting Madonna's controversial image of pushing boundaries. It was especially hurtful, because Costner had taken his kids to the event and brought them backstage to see the star, but they were made fun of as soon as the star turned his back. An eyewitness described how Kevin felt manipulated and ambushed. He'd taken his kids to visit someone he believed was an artist, but it turned out she was using him as a punchline in her documentary. Not only was it rude to him, but it was also humiliating for his kids. Those close to Costner assert that the episode significantly changed his perspective on Madonna and the performative elements of celebrity culture in general, even though he has hardly discussed it publicly in the decades following. In Costner's private conversations regarding his funeral plans, the name Madonna has apparently come up because the perceived betrayal left such a lasting impression. He brought up the fact that Madonna had staked a long-standing business associate's reputation. "I don't want anyone at my funeral who would mock me behind my back. If Madonna shows up, have security escort her out." He said it half-jokingly, but the hurt was still there all these years after. This pent-up animosity reflects Costner's penchant for dwelling on past slights and his core value of treating people with respect, which he allegedly believes Madonna betrayed for the benefit of a cheap joke and an uncomfortable documentary moment. Costner allegedly removed the pop star from his funeral guest list, but she isn't the only one. His confrontation with an intense, Oscar-winning actor is just around the corner. If you want to know what makes a good parent, it comes down to being consistent. Secondly, there's Sean Penn, the actor whose ego was at odds with himself. It would appear that Kevin Costner and Sean Penn are both Hollywood insiders. theatrical heavy hitters known for their unwavering artistic ideals, strong political beliefs, and aspirations to direct. Industry insiders, however, claim that the two performers' same traits may have exacerbated their long, simmering animosity rather than fostering a bond. A producer who has collaborated with both actors on occasion observed that they bring two distinct perspectives to the table, along with their own egos and alpha male reputations. The two of them are quite gifted. They are both extremely passionate about what they do and take their profession quite seriously. It's going to lead to tension. Many Hollywood insiders have their own theories on where the rumored animosity between Costner and Penn came from. A lot of people think it started because they were competing for roles as leading males in the 80s and 90s, when they were both making a name for themselves in the acting world and hoping to direct some films. According to a casting director who is well versed in the careers of both actors, they were vying for comparable parts and status in Hollywood. Costner was revered as a commercial success thanks to films like Dances with Wolves and The Bodyguard, whereas Penn was regarded as an actor's actor and known for his more serious work. Attention was naturally generated by that. Costner yearned for the regard that Penn enjoyed from critics. Maybe Penn is jealous of how popular Costner is. Some say the disagreements stem from their different political philosophies. Although they have taken somewhat different approaches to politics, both men have been politically involved for a long time. In contrast to Costner's more balanced, conventionally American viewpoint, Penn takes a more aggressive, hands-on approach to global affairs. The activist stances taken by Kevin and Sean couldn't be more different. According to a former studio executive who has worked with both celebrities, Penn visits contentious world leaders and flies into catastrophe zones. Costner is an environmentalist and filmmaker who focuses on American history. Despite their differences in style, they are both passionate. Reportedly, the animosity grew into mutual avoidance over time, regardless of the root cause. It looks more like a calculated decision than a coincidence that the two performers, who have been in the same Hollywood circles for decades, have never collaborated and are rarely seen at the same events. A long-time Hollywood reporter revealed that they've kept their distance and maintained a frigid peace. However, Costner has reportedly made remarks in private that imply he finds Penn's seriousness and passion to be off-putting. "We appear to be on the same page," reportedly. Costner's professional avoidance has even reached his funeral plans, where he supposedly considered Penn as one of the people he would rather not have there. An acquaintance of the actors asserted that Kevin had once expressed his desire to avoid performative grief during his burial. He singled out Penn as an example of someone who could show up with the intention of making it about himself, rather than showing true respect for their connection, which up until now has been practically non-existent. Costner has another name on his list that has more going on than simply a personality conflict. Millions of dollars and the reputation of a classic film are on the line in this heartbreaking professional split. I would tell you right now, Whitney, if you could hear me, that you weren't good enough. Thank you so much. You weren't merely beautiful. You were the most stunning woman alive. Whitney, it wasn't only that people liked you, everyone adored you. And lastly, the estate of Whitney Houston, the illustrious heritage that became infamous. If you were looking for a top-grossing film from the 90s, go no further than The Bodyguard. As a cultural sensation, it catapulted Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston to superstardom around the world and yielded the best-selling soundtrack of all time. Costner delivered one of the most poignant eulogies for his former co-star Houston in 2012, speaking about the kinship that the film's popularity established between the two performers. However, sources close to the matter say that Costner's connection to Houston's estate in the years after her passing has been considerably more difficult and controversial, so much so that he apparently included her estate's representatives on his unwelcome funeral list. According to an entertainment attorney acquainted with the matter, their relationship allegedly deteriorated following The Bodyguard because to sequels and control. The idea for a sequel to The Bodyguard had been brewing in Costner's mind for quite some time. Even after Whitney passed away, those endeavors persisted, despite the growing animosity between Costner and Houston's estate officials. Allegedly, the disagreement centered on who should have creative control, how much money should be involved, and how to properly utilize Houston's reputation and image in any possible reboot or sequel. Although Costner thought he was paying tribute to their creative collaboration and her legacy, Some from Houston's estate apparently thought he was being too self-absorbed or didn't appreciate her special role in the original film's success. According to a former business associate who was involved in the negotiations, Kevin believed he was safeguarding their common heritage. He had very particular thoughts on how the sequel should pay tribute to Whitney's performance and persona. However, it appears that things turned more hostile as the negotiations with her estate representatives continued. There were allegedly heated discussions and a subsequent failure to communicate as a result of the issue. For Costner, who had felt true grief for Houston and saw their collaboration as a professional high point, this was an especially devastating result. A friend who was there during Costner's unhappiness bemoaned the fact that the focus shifted from art and memories to attorneys and contracts. Kevin believed that some individuals in charge of Whitney's inheritance cared more about maintaining power and wealth than they did about paying tribute to the legacy that they had built along with Whitney. That severely affected him. When Costner felt his own motivations were being misrepresented or questioned by individuals representing Houston's estate, this professional disappointment allegedly turned into personal animosity. According to reports, what started out as an attempt to pay tribute to their partnership turned into a constant cause of tension and disappointment. The actor's close associate asserted that Kevin had told friends he did not want specific members of Whitney's estate to attend his funeral. His sincere wish to pay tribute to their collaboration had been turned into something mercenary, in his opinion. The idea that her representatives may attend his own burial, after speaking so movingly at hers, struck him as extremely ironic. This intricate scenario illustrates how disagreements in the workplace can quickly escalate into very personal matters, particularly when they concern the affairs of a person who is unable to express themselves freely. Costner views the alleged conflict with Houston's estate as more than simply a financial dispute. It is a devastating blow to a relationship that had great personal and professional significance for him. Those who were formerly close collaborators might inflict the deepest hurts when it comes to professional disappointments. A well-respected co-star from a Western film that sparked some throwback issues is the next person on Costner's list. We despise living here, but we won't allow the rancher or his lawmen to take our lives or our property, since everyone has the right to defend himself. Exactly 4. Robert Duvall, the contrasting artistic perspective and co-star. Many consider Open Range, a critically acclaimed Western that Kevin Costner directed, produced, and starred in 2003, to be one of his best films. His co-star was the renowned Robert Duvall, who had already cemented his place in American cinematic history as a leading man, especially in Westerns, with roles in such landmark films as The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, and Lonesome Dove. They achieved remarkable accomplishments as a team on film. They had a far more convoluted and destructive relationship off camera, say Hollywood insiders. A member of the film's crew has come out to discuss a former co-star from Open Range who allegedly had an argument with director Brett Costner behind the scenes over some creative decisions. 2 outstanding performances were what the crowd witnessed. On set, we witnessed a major rift in methods that caused friction. Differing approaches to creativity were the root cause of the alleged disagreement. Costner, who was also the film's director and performer, had high hopes for it. A visually stunning and reflective Western that painstakingly built up to its climactic gunfight by introducing people one at a time. Rumor has it that Duvall, who has a wealth of knowledge and strong feelings about Westerns, had differing viewpoints on how to handle particular situations. Western legend versus Western legend. A producer who knew both actors well described it as an old-fashioned power struggle. Actor Duvall is more than that. He has firm beliefs about his craft and is thus an institution. In what he thought would be his last Western, Costner was at the helm. Fistfights broke out as those visions clashed. Character motivations, timing, and the logistical challenges of filming particular scenes were allegedly the main areas of dispute. Those around them on site noted a growing tension between the two guys despite their professional demeanors. An assistant director from the film stressed that they were never openly hostile. It was more of an icy tension, with much of back and forth, poorly received proposals, and an underlying feeling that their perspectives were fundamentally different. Whenever Duvall disagreed with Costner's orders, you could feel his annoyance. According to reports, the creative difficulties were even more disheartening and personally painful for Costner because of his profound regard for Duvall as an actor. A close acquaintance of Costner's noted that Kevin had greatly admired Duvall's work. It had been a lifelong ambition of mine to have him in the picture. It was devastating that the event fell short of expectations. It was more than simply a strained professional relationship. It was the breaking of a false belief about an individual he had enormous respect for. Although both actors have been openly polite when talking about the film since then, people close to Costner say it had a profound effect on him, enough to make him think about who he would want to attend his funeral. An associate of Costner's asserted that the artist brought up Duvall in relation to those who disregarded his artistic vision. Something like, "I don't want anyone at my funeral who didn't respect me enough to trust my direction." His tone wasn't angry, but rather resigned. Even after all these years, the letdown is still plain to see. This unresolved conflict reflects the emotional investment Costner has in his directing endeavors and the intensity with which he reacts to what he views as obstacles to his creative vision, particularly from those he has looked up to in the past. The newest chapter of a renowned career can sometimes give rise to the most vicious feuds, rather than the old Hollywood. Costner continues with a name that was prominent in modern westerns on television and had a dramatic aftermath that was reported all across the world. Maybe you'll save these and use them to help you reach your goal of 5. Taylor Sheridan, the contemporary feud that brought an empire to its knees. In 2018, Kevin Costner took Hollywood by storm when he agreed to star in Yellowstone, a Paramount Network series produced by Taylor Sheridan. The show's meteoric rise to fame brought in a new generation of viewers and revitalized Costner's career in the face of television's fragmentation. It appeared for a while that Costner and Sheridan's collaboration was the ideal union of star power and artistic vision. Nevertheless, rumors surfaced that simmered beneath the surface and would eventually boil over into one of the most talked about feuds in the entertainment industry. Costner's dramatic departure from Yellowstone was caused by tension behind the scenes, according to a Paramount executive who saw the partnership fall apart. Eventually, the situation became intolerable for both parties as their objectives and communication styles diverged from what started as mutual appreciation. Reportedly, scheduling, creative control, and divergent goals for the show's future were at the heart of the argument. After Yellowstone became an enormous success, Sheridan broadened his ambition to include a whole universe of related shows. At the same time, Costner got to work on Horizon, the Western epic he had always dreamed of directing and starring in. According to an executive who was involved with both initiatives, the clash of these conflicting agendas was like a perfect storm. To accommodate his ever-expanding production schedule in Yellowstone, Sheridan needed Costner's availability. Horizon had been in the works for decades, but Costner was determined to see it through. A sacrifice had to be made. Misunderstandings, schedule issues, and heated public debates on Costner's availability and dedication to Yellowstone allegedly led to the situation's worsening. When information about what had been an internal dispute at work leaked to the entertainment media, it became a public controversy that tarnished the reputations of all involved. The aftermath became publicly unpleasant, according to a veteran Hollywood journalist who followed the story. The press was being fed conflicting accounts by sources on both sides. The show that brought new life to Costner's career painted him as distant and demanding. Sheridan was said to be demanding and irrational. The truth, as usual, was somewhere in between. Millions of fans were disappointed when the dispute led to Costner's departure from Yellowstone, casting doubt on the show's future. In addition to the obvious professional ramifications, Costner allegedly felt personally betrayed by the scenario, and this feeling has supposedly persisted into his preparations for his own burial. An associate of Kevin's asserted that he singled out Sheridan when speaking of those he would prefer not to have at his burial. From his point of view, he was only attempting to balance all of his work obligations with his passion project. But he believed the story that came out made him out to be tough or ungrateful. Everything that transpired in the open seemed like a betrayal of a partnership that had worked for both parties. A career-reviving partnership between Costner and his collaborators ended in animosity and public recriminations, casting a shadow over what could have been a shining moment in his later work. This quarrel, which is still very much in the public eye, is a particularly difficult chapter in his life. One of Hollywood's biggest female stars is involved with the last name on Costner's list, which has been causing suspicion for decades due to a series of strange missed collaborations. Our life together, the life my spouse and I have created. Number 6. Julia Roberts, the ill-fated star-studded partnership. Among the most famous people in Hollywood, Kevin Costner and Julia Roberts stand out. They were both iconic figures of the 80s and 90s film scenes, when they were at the height of their stardom. Despite having seemingly natural on-screen chemistry and following similar career paths, the two have never shared a screen. According to those in the know, a mysterious absence hides a complicated and icy relationship. A seasoned casting director who has collaborated with both actors claimed that, while it was never officially confirmed, they were scheduled to collaborate on many occasions, and projects kept falling through. Hollywood is full of stories that neither side wants the public to hear. So when two big stars keep talking about making a movie together, but never really do it, it typically suggests there's something there. Costner and Roberts, according to sources acquainted with the matter, were linked to multiple projects in the 90s and hundreds, including serious features, romantic comedies, and thrillers, all of which were tailor-made for their individual on-screen personas. Each time, the public was never given a comprehensive explanation as to why the partnerships failed. Prominent figures, unexplainable, remained silent. I want to know what happened. A former studio executive involved in one of the unsuccessful initiatives summed it up as energy. They would engage their squads. The talks would go forward. On occasion, even news releases were prepared. Then, out of nowhere, the whole system would crumble. When it occurred more than once, people began to question its veracity. Multiple hypotheses have circulated among Hollywood insiders on the origin of the tension, but no one has been able to pin it down. There are those who think that, in the beginning of the negotiations, there was a dispute over payment or billing. Some have brought up the fact that they had competing ideas for the initiatives they were thinking about. A handful of them allude to an encounter that happened in person and made an unfavorable impression. According to a publicist who has dealt with numerous famous people, something happened between them, but they have both been extremely quiet about it. Strange and revealing, given that everything leaks in this field, is the relative quiet around Costner and Roberts. The two celebrities have reportedly been at odds for decades, and despite their public displays of courteous distance, they have avoided working together professionally. Supposedly, Costner's long-standing evasion has even reached his private contemplations over his funeral arrangements. Someone who had turned down offers to collaborate with Kevin should not be invited to his funeral, Kevin said. So stated an actor acquaintance. Particularly, Julia's name popped up. Something along the lines of, "If she didn't want to make a movie with me when I was alive, I don't need her at my funeral pretending she cared." This pent-up animosity reflects Costner's apparent vulnerability to perceived rejection in the workplace and the enigmatic character of their relationship. The ongoing inability to collaborate with one of the most iconic women of his generation appears to be an especially significant omission for someone whose career has been founded on solid collaborations and collaborative filmmaking. Not the events that transpired, not the parts that were removed. As I drive home on the highway, I'll be announcing that I got the job. Principles cost in the entertainment industry. Kevin Costner's more than 4-decade Hollywood career is represented by the 6 people who allegedly won't be attending his burial. Many forms of treachery, disappointment, and dissatisfaction have impacted Costner's view of the entertainment business and his role in it. The human costs of preserving values and standards in an industry sometimes lacking both are revealed by these interactions, ranging from Madonna's public mocking to Taylor Sheridan's recent professional breakdown, from Sean Penn's alpha male competition to the intricate difficulties with Whitney Houston's estate. A filmmaker who has collaborated with Kevin on several films remarked that he has always acted in accordance with his strong moral principles. When he talks about how individuals should be professional, honest, and respectful, he means it. To him, it shows a person's character when they act in a way that goes against his ideals, and he has a hard time forgetting or forgiving them. At certain moments in his career, Costner has undoubtedly been Costner because to his uncompromising attitude to relationships. Because he was not one to play politics or ignore slights, he occasionally alienated influential people in the industry who might have helped him promote his interests. He would never budge from his principles or vision. Thus, any partnerships with big names in the industry never came to fruition. According to a long-time agent who has handled numerous deals for Kevin Costner, His career would have been smoother if he had been more tolerant of others' mistakes. However, that does not define him. Instead of bending or compromising on his values, he would rather face the repercussions head-on. In a field where pleasing dominant egos is frequently considered essential to succeed, this moral clarity has occasionally been taken for haughtiness or rigidity. On the other hand, it has brought Costner unwavering devotion from like-minded individuals, including performers, crew members, and collaborators who have collaborated with him on multiple occasions. A producer who has worked with Kevin Costner on several projects stressed that for every individual on his not welcome list, there are dozens more who would give their lives to collaborate with him. Once more, he commands such devotion from his followers because they are never in the dark about his position. When people do a good job, he is honest, fair, and grateful. Despite into his 70s, Costner continues to display a pattern of firm limits and unwavering standards. It would appear that he is becoming more and more resolved to live and work in accordance with his own principles, irrespective of industry pressure or expectations. Based on his recent experiences with Yellowstone and his dedication to making Horizon despite substantial challenges. According to a close friend of Kevin's, the man is now thinking about his legacy in the workplace and in his personal life, being truthful about the connections that mattered and the ones that exposed dismal human nature is part of this. He wants his last chapter to be a reflection of his life as it actually was, not some Hollywood production, and his thoughts on his funeral revolve around this idea of authenticity. Okay, so I figured I was the only one who could mess it up, but then I remembered that I'm only the guy behind the star. The reported funeral wishes indicate specific grudges and disappointments, but beyond that, Costner's views provide a glimpse into the rarely seen personal side of a highly famous figure, the real guide behind the iconic parts and meticulously staged public personas. In contrast to his public persona, as the epitome of stable American manhood, the Costner shown in these interactions is more nuanced, often hurt by slights and betrayals, and surprisingly susceptible to criticism from people he values. According to a close acquaintance of Kevin's, the parts he has done have given him the reputation of being unflappable, strong, and quiet. The truth is more complex. Things strike a chord with him. Adversity shatters him. He feels hurt by betrayal. He carries the stench of contempt. He just doesn't flaunt it like other celebrities. Despite experiencing both great professional success and terrible failures, Costner has managed to keep his artistic integrity and personal dignity intact because of his combination of genuine toughness and resilience with his emotional sensitivity. Despite facing devastating setbacks with Waterworld and triumphal Oscar triumphs with Dances with Wolves, as well as bitter divorces and career reinventions, he has shown an extraordinary capacity to take hits and keep going. Kevin's strength isn't in his ability to avoid harm. According to a director who has collaborated with him on tough and successful projects, it's about pushing through pain. Although he is haunted by memories of every slight and betrayal, he refuses to let them shape who he is or dictate his actions. To the average person, that may seem like an unusual kind of strength. The way Costner approaches people throughout his profession is influenced by this blend of empathy and perseverance. Those who prove faithful and share his principles become lifelong friends, while those who have let him down or betrayed him are politely but firmly distanced from him. As he gets older and devotes more time and energy to relationships that truly enrich his life, his selective attitude to relationships becomes more and more obvious. Someone who worked with Kevin in recent years saw that he is now much more deliberate about the places he puts his emotions. He isn't interested in those who are only trying to fool him or who have already displayed their true colors. His wishes for his funeral reflect this clarity. He would like to be surrounded, even metaphorically, by those who cared about him really, rather than by others who would attend just to make a show. Here, Costner's reported not welcome list isn't about being spiteful or inconsiderate. Rather, it's about wanting his last earthly gathering to be a reflection of the real relationships and connections that shaped his life, as opposed to the staged parts of fame that he has grown to despise. Kevin, according to a longtime friend, has always been able to see through the Hollywood facade. While keeping an unbiased perspective on the industry's deceit, he has amassed an impressive career. His desire for an honest memorial service attended by individuals who knew and loved him, rather than by others who might be there to appease the media or alter a contentious past, is very understandable.